In Palestine, thousands of residents of Gaza City are currently being evacuated to the south after a warning by Israeli occupation forces. In Ecuador, presidential candidates Luisa González and Daniel Noboa concluded their electoral campaigns. In Morocco, people rejected the involvement of international financial institutions in global poverty and climate change during the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Rosabal from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Thousands of residents of Gaza City are currently being evacuated to the south after a warning by the Israeli occupation forces. The warning comes before an attack by the Israeli forces to be carried out this Friday in the northern area of the territory, where more than 1 million people live. Let us recall that in the last 24 hours, the percentage of displaced citizens rose to 25%, resulting in an approximate number of 423,378 displaced people. Given this, the United Nations called on the United Nations community to declare that any similar measures must be abolished immediately in order to avoid devastating humanitarian consequences. With the development of the Israel-Palestinian conflict and the intensification of attacks in the area, civilians living in the Gaza Strip are on the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe. Health Minister Mali Al-Kaila said on Thursday that the number of wounded is outstripping the capacity of hospitals in the area, in addition to a severe shortage of drugs, superratings, room supplies, and blood bags. The staff is also in danger as since the escalation of the conflicts, there have been attacks on ambulances which have left several dead. Following the closure of the border crossing by Israel, Palestinians were left with no way out of the Gaza Strip. In addition, the only crossing into Egypt, Rafah, was closed on Tuesday after the Israeli carried out an airstrike. Moreover, Israeli Defense Forces are preparing to carry out an extensive ground mission in the Gaza Strip, creating a worrying situation for civilians. In the meantime, France bans demonstrators in support of the Palestinian people. In this sense, the authorities dispersed with tear gas grenades in rally in solidarity with the Palestinian people. The measure was ordered by the French Minister of the Interior, Gérald Darmanin, alleging the need to maintain public order. In Palestine, new data of intense bombardments by the Israeli army against urban centers in the Gaza Strip, and more than 50 people were killed in the last hours, according to official sources. The Palestinian Minister of Public Health reported on Thursday that a total of 51 people were killed or downed by Israeli Defense Forces bombs. According to the official body, the Israeli forces concentrated their attacks on the residential neighborhoods of Sabra al-Zaytun, al-Nafaq, and Tel Awa, as well as others in the Palestinian enclave. Since Saturday, the death toll in the Gaza Strip after the Israeli bombardments has exceeded 1,100 people. On the other hand, the United Nations Refugee Agency confirmed that at least 12 of its staff were killed, including 5 teachers, a gynecologist, an engineer, a psychological counselor, and 3 support staff. It is estimated that 202,000 people have been displaced. So far, about 10% of the population. From the United Nations, the Secretary General's spokesperson, Stéphane Dujarric, declared that the number of displaced persons in the Gaza Strip has already increased by 30% in the last 24 hours.
The Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that mass displacements across the Gaza Strip continues in very, very large numbers. The cumulative number of displaced people increased by 30% just over the last 24 hours, now totaling more than 338,000, of whom over two-thirds are taking shelter in schools run by UNRWA. The UN Relief and Works Agency says that nearly 218,000 internally displaced people are sheltering in 92 of their schools in all areas of the Gaza Strip. In Gaza, more than 2,500 units have been destroyed or severely damaged and rendered uninhabitable, while nearly 23,000 others have sustained moderate to minor damage. At least 88 educational facilities have been struck, including 18 UNRWA schools, 2 of which were being used as emergency shelters for displaced people, as well as 70 Palestinian Authority schools. This means that for the 6th consecutive day, more than 600,000 children have had no access to education in a safe place in Gaza.
The spokesperson for the UN Secretary General also warns of what could happen to the Gaza people of Gaza now that they have no electricity, water, or food.
As a Gaza Sol power plant has run out of fuel and was forced to stop functioning, triggering an immediate blackout, which continues throughout the Strip. This follows Israel's halt of its electricity and fuel supplies to Gaza on October 8th. A water crisis is looming in UNRWA emergency shelters and across the Gaza Strip due to damaged infrastructure, lack of electricity needed to operate pumps and desalination plants, as well as limited supply of water in local markets. Water supplies cannot be replenished due to the total blockade of the Strip by Israeli authorities. Fuel cannot be brought in, and Israeli water suppliers are no longer delivering water to Gaza.
Estem Duharik pointed out that humanitarian agencies are unable to carry out their humanitarian aid work and announced the death of 2 people who were carrying out this work.
Agencies continue to face major constraints in providing humanitarian assistance. The insecurity is preventing safe access to impacted areas and warehouses. Despite the challenging conditions, humanitarian workers have provided some assistance, including in the distribution of fresh bread to 137,000 people, the delivery of 70,000 liters of fuel to water and sanitation facilities, and the activation of psychosocial helplines. Yesterday, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Martin Griffiths, allocated $9 million from the Central Emergency Response Fund to urgently respond to relief efforts. UNRWA adds that 12 of its personnel have now been killed since October 7th.
In Iraq, dozens of thousands of protesters took to baggage streets to battle the Palestinian people. Demonstrators waved Iranian flags as they were riding motors and carrying banners "No occupation, down with Israel." According to local media, supporters trampled Israeli flags to express their rejection to the actions taken by the occupying forces. Similar rallies occurred once in different nations of the region. In Venezuela, social organizations hold a rally in support of the Palestinian people to condemn the Israeli siege. In Caracas City, more than 60 pro-Palestinian organizations expressed their solidarity towards the Palestinian people. In a sense, it denounced before the United Nations organizations the crimes against humanity committed by the Israeli occupying forces. The coordinator for the Platform of Solidarity with Palestine in South American country, Indu Andari, pointed out that it is necessary to highlight by all means how Palestine has been at the forefront of the defense of its territory.
We are today as a people, as a popular organization, raising our voice in solidarity with Palestine and giving a round of applause to the Palestinian resistance. Palestine has put itself at the forefront of the defense of its territory and also on the offensive to achieve this objective. This is fundamental for us. We have to highlight through any media networks the courage and heroism of the people that with their fingernails are attacking precisely an entity, a colonizing regime such as the Israeli regime that keeps the Palestinian people in the parley. And in front of that Goliath, the David, now upside down that it's Palestine, it has risen up and is giving lessons to the world of sovereignty.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, new updates, and more. Our study is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Ecuador, presidential candidates Luisa González and Daniel Noboa concluded their electoral campaigns. The closing acts took place in the province of Santa Elena and Guayaquil. Wearing a national soccer team jersey and a bulletproof vest, the candidate of the Student Revolution RC, who won the first round of these extraordinary elections, concluded the promotion stage with a multitudinous act in the coastal city of Guayaquil. During her speech, she denounced the increase in violence and the 280,000 Ecuadorians who migrated as a result of the crisis in the Andean country. Venezuela celebrated on Thursday the resolution adopted at the United Nations Human Rights Council (HRC) against the imposition of unilateral coercive measures. The permanent representative of the South American country to the multilateral organization in Geneva, Hector Constant, valued this result and its accounts as a new victory for international law. The resolution in question indicates that no state may resort to or encourage the use of any type of measure to coerce another state in order to obtain it from its subordination of the exercise of its sovereign rights or to obtain it from an advantage of any kind. During the 39th session of the Human Rights Committee, Foreign Minister Ivan Gil announced that Venezuela was targeted by the perverse strategy of regime change promoted by the United States and the international ultra-right. During the sixth meeting of the International Forum of the Russian Energy Week, Venezuelan Vice President Desi Rodriguez assured that Western sanctions against Venezuela remain intact. Desi Rodriguez stated that the unilateral coercive measures imposed by the United States and the European Union caused serious damage to the Venezuelan economy. The head official also indicated that the impact of the sanctions against the country has had a consequence the loss of thousands of dollars in oil production. Rodriguez pointed out that following the people's own efforts, the government has undergone an economic recovery process, highlighting that by 2024, Venezuela is projected to be one of the first countries in South America to grow.
The 930 unilateral coercive measures called illegal and illegitimate sanctions are still intact against Venezuela. It is a system of sanctions, extortion, blackmail, which precisely sought to asphyxiate the Venezuelan economy, to pressure and push the Venezuelan people to change their political course. That is the first thing. There are 930 sanctions against Venezuela that are absolutely enforced. Now the impact that this has had on the Venezuelan economy is brutal. In 5 years, Venezuela has lost the production of 3,995 million barrels, a barbaric figure that represents $232 billion.
The executive vice president of Venezuela, Desi Rodriguez, stressed that the economic bloc of these BRICS is contributing to the formation of a new world.
The BRICS today have 43 of the world's energy reserves, but it has also become a space for meeting and dialogue between the world's main producers and consumers. That it accounts for 29% of the world's gross domestic product, 46% of the world's population, 45% of the exports of goods, and 46% of the oil production. It's a new world where Russia, well, it's in that core generator, the re-dollarization, the creation of a new world.
In the United States, Democrat Senator Bob Menendez was indeed forced in bribes on behalf of a foreign government and acting as an undercover agent. New indictments handed down by the federal jury in Manhattan show that Menendez provided sensitive U.S. government information and took other actions that secretly aided the government of Egypt. These indictments allege that Bob Menendez leveraged his political influence for illicit financial gains worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The new indictment comes just weeks after the Democrats' wife were accused of accepting bribes in cash, gold bullion, and a luxury car from the three New Jersey businessmen who wanted the senator to help and influence them in foreign affairs. We have a second show break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at TeleSUR English, where you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to set up to dates on the world more recent events. Final show break, don't go away. Welcome back. Moroccans rejected the involvement of international financial institutions in global poverty and climate change during the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank in Marrakesh. More than 70 organizations and social movements gathered to protest against the agenda of the annual meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The participants warned the organizations that they cannot be condescending and support economic policies that imply a step backwards in environmental matters. The demonstration started in the central Bab Dukhal Square in the old part of Marrakech and circulated under attentive police deployment. In Morocco, the International Monetary Fund IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva told a press conference that what is happening in Gaza is regrettable and said that the IMF is closely monitoring the evolution of the situation and how it affects the oil markets.
What is our reaction to that? It's heartbreaking to see innocent civilians dying. An attack from one place on another, causing also reciprocity in response. Who pays the price? It is the innocent who pay the price. We are very closely monitoring how the situation evolves, how it is affecting especially oil markets. It is too early to say. We have seen some up and down of oil prices. We have seen some reaction on markets. And as I said, we will be closely monitoring this. Very, very clearly, this is a new cloud on not the sunniest horizon for the world economy. New cloud darkening this horizon, of course, not needed. Pray for peace.
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived on Thursday in Kyrgyzstan for a two-day official visit. This is the president's first international trip so far in 2023. The Russian head of state's plane landed at Man's airport in the city of Bishkek, RIA Novosti reports. His Kyrgyz counterpart said Nadir Sabarov received Putin at the hall in front of the presidential residence Ala Arsha. During his visit, Putin laid a wreath of the Altabeye Tombs of the Fathers Memorial Complex, located 25 kilometers from the capital and built in memory of those who died during the tragic events of 1916. In addition, the presidents held talks at the state residence during which they discussed key issues for the development of bilateral relations in the political, economic, commercial, military, technical, cultural, humanitarian fields, and others.
First of all, I would like to note that your visit has a great symbolic meaning since it coincided with the 20th anniversary of the Cannes Air Base and the 30th anniversary of the Kyrgyz-Russian Slavic University. These significant events in our bilateral relations are symbols of our friendship. We highly value the Kyrgyz-Russian strategic partnership and allied relations. Russia is one of the leading trade and economic partners of Kyrgyzstan. Last year, the trade turnover increased by 37% to a record nearly $3.5 billion US. And in the first half of this year, it added another 17.9%. Russia is the largest investor in the Kyrgyz economy. About 36% of all accumulated foreign direct investment in Kyrgyzstan is made up of Russian investments. There are 800 enterprises with Russian participation operating in the republic.
The government of Ethiopia rejects the United Nations Organization report, considering that it lacks a thorough investigation regarding the situation in the country. Ethiopian authorities rejected the statement based on the report of the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on the country, which presents allegations compiled from unreliable sources. In this regard, the foreign minister recalled that the agreement for a lasting peace through a permanent cessation of hostilities signed last November silenced the weapons in the north of the country as a result of negotiations mediated by the African Union. South Korea got its first close-up view of one of a new pair of giant panda cubs Thursday at a ceremony to reveal their names and celebrate 100 days since their birth. The females named Rui Bao White Treasure and Wee Bao Bright Treasure were born at Everland Theme Park near the capital Seoul in July and have since received an outpouring of enthusiasm and affection. About 500,000 panda lovers helped choose their name through online voting, according to the zoo, and a handful of lucky fans were invited to the ceremony on Thursday. Ai Bao and Li Bao, the twins' parents, arrived in South Korea in 2016 as a state gift from Chinese President Xi Jinping. China has long deployed panda diplomacy, gifting the animals to various countries, often to further its foreign policy goals.
We've never raised twins before, so we were very nervous, but I was happy seeing them grow up, and I think the people watching them via social media were also happy. So I think that they are already a very generous pair of twins who provide a lot of happiness.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Ana Rosabal. Thank you for watching.